what is taking place at this moment is starting to pull the United States in to this Israel and Hamas war. Today's video, I'm going to break down what is going on and how Hamas withholding American hostages is actually causing a bigger crisis, and it's showing the leverage that Hamas has at this time. So, I will break all that down in just a moment. All I ask is if you enjoy these daily updates, do me a favor, go ahead, hit that like button, and let's begin. So the first thing we know is that Hamas is set to exchange more hostages for Palestinian prisoners. That is going to happen today. Today is day 2 of this ceasefire. It is a 4-day ceasefire. Now, let's read a little bit more into this. It says Hamas is preparing to release more than a dozen hostages on Saturday. This is actually pretty big. Now, the reason this is pretty big is because yesterday, on Friday, Hamas released a decent amount of hostages, and Israel released a decent amount of prisoners. However, there was no American hostages that were released. However, in the deal for the ceasefire, it is stated that they have to release 3 American hostages. Right now, they have 10. Now, let's keep reading. It says, on the first day of the 4-day ceasefire, Hamas released 24 of the about 240 hostages. Again, none of them were the American citizens. It says Israel freed 39 Palestinians from prison. And we'll touch on that in a moment. It says on Saturday, Hamas provided mediators, Egypt and Qatar, with a list of 14 hostages to be released, and it has passed that to Israel. Israel has also said in the truce, it can be extended an extra day for every additional 10 hostages freed. This is big, okay? This is where things really start to turn. And this is where multiple experts are saying that this could be the problem that Israel has moving forward. Okay? And the reason for that is simple. Let me read you this. This is a piece from the Washington Journal, or the Wall Street Journal. And this is what it reads. Listen to this. Even as Israelis rejoice for the women and children who will return home, they know Hamas is rejoicing too. Its war crimes have been rewarded. Think about that for a second. Hamas's war crimes when they went into Israel, attacked Israelis in a music festival, and pulled over more than 200 hostages out of Israel. They are now being rewarded for that because Israel is releasing prisoners in exchange for those hostages. Think about that. Think about that for a moment. Think about how rewarded Israel feels that what they did is paying off. Or what Hamas did is paying off. That is where experts say that's where Israelis should be worried. Because that's not a good look. Okay? They negotiated with terrorists. Now, look at this. It says Hamas withholding American hostages so they have leverage over the U.S. This is according to Adam Buehler. He's a mediator. It says he's helped negotiate the Abrams Accord. But he talks about the leverage that Hamas has at this time. And I want to break down some of that. It says Hamas is withholding American hostages. And experts believe that this is simply just to have leverage over the United States because the United States is backing Israel. Well, if Hamas says, you stop backing Israel, we will give you these hostages. Well, for one, the United States doesn't negotiate with terrorists. Okay? That's been said. We know that. But do they do a little bit more? I'll play you this clip from President Biden.
We also will not stop until we get these hostages brought home and an answer to their whereabouts.
So he says they're not going to stop. But is that true? We do know that in this group of 50 hostages that will be released, 3 of them have to be American citizens. That's 3 out of the 10. Okay? Now another thing that was negotiated, and this is something that most people don't know, is that in this negotiation for this 4-day ceasefire, Israel cannot obviously hit Gaza with additional missiles and strikes. The other thing they can't do, they cannot fly drones overhead. Well, Israel has been flying drones overhead, which some of them are coming from the United States, some of these smaller contractors, but these drones that they're flying overhead are able to see who's underground, are able to see where there's movement. And based off of the statements that have been released just over the past day, is according to these reports, Hamas is likely to continue moving hostages and continue to fix their new hiding places. So this is going to make it even harder, more difficult for Israel. But at the same time, the expectation is as soon as the 4 days is up, Israel is going to hammer southern Gaza. The northern part of Gaza has been pretty much leveled. And so we're going to see what happens there. Now, here's what's happening now. As we get into this 4-day ceasefire, Israel's plan is to figure out what the next phase of this Gaza war is. That's what they're doing. Because according to Israel, they say, we will not stop until we achieve our goals, the destruction of Hamas and bringing home the hostages from Gaza to Israel. Now, according to the Palestinian authorities, we know that nearly 15,000 people have lost their lives during the Israeli bombardment of Gaza. It's a lot of people. Okay? I want to also read you something else. Because even though this war isn't over, some say it's just getting started. What we know is that experts anticipate over the next couple of days, and remember it's a 4-day ceasefire, that we are going to see the ceasefire get extended. Okay? We are likely to see a push from the rest of the world. We're already seeing this here in the United States as well. Okay? Just yesterday, which was Black Friday, just yesterday, we were seeing all over the news, all over social media, people were applauding Israel for finally agreeing to the ceasefire. However, they didn't stop there. They were just demanding that the ceasefire doesn't stop. It doesn't end. It continues on indefinitely. Well, Israel has vowed to end Hamas. And according to these experts, they say the only way they can achieve this goal is to continue their attack on southern Gaza. Do you know where all the people that were in northern Gaza, do you know where they went? Southern Gaza. That's where they were being told it is safer. Okay? So, right now there's 15,000 people that have lost their lives. Experts say this number could double in the near future. Now, I want to read you something else. Because one of the things that President Biden has been asked is to put conditions on Israel for additional aid. Well, according to The Hill, President Biden, he says conditions on aid to Israel is a worthwhile thought. I want to read you something. It says President Biden conceded with critics within his party Friday that calls to put specific conditions on aid to Israel are a worthwhile thought amid the country's war against Hamas in Gaza. He says, I think that's a worthwhile thought, but I don't think if I started off with that, we ever would have gotten to where we are today. We have to take this a piece at a time. That's what he stated. Well, experts believe that he is somewhat right. That he probably should have pushed Israel a little bit sooner, but at the same time, if he would have pushed them too hard too soon, his connection with Israel could have been almost lost. Now, I want to read you one other thing. This is from President Biden as well. He said, I've encouraged the Prime Minister to focus on trying to reduce the number of casualties while he's attempting to eliminate Hamas, which is a legitimate objective use. That's a difficult task. Okay? And I don't know how long it will take. My expectation, hope, is that as we move forward, the rest of the Arab world and the region is also putting pressure on all sides to slow this down, to bring this to an end as quickly as possible. I told you this before. I expect it to remain true, that this is going to take another month to 2 months. And then even after that, Israel is going to get hammered by the rest of the world, because as Palestinians go home, especially to northern Gaza, and they're doing it today as well, we saw it yesterday, people were going back home, or what they were expecting to be their home, but yet they show up and it's just rubble. It's just flattened out rubble because their home has been hit. So it is interesting what's happening right now. But I want to read you this one last thing. Okay, this is from yesterday as well. It says President Biden suggests Hamas attack inspired by U.S. diplomacy with Saudis. Now, why would he say that? Well, I want to read you this. It says, I cannot prove what I'm about to say, but I believe one of the reasons why Hamas struck when they did was they knew that I was working very closely with the Saudis and others in the region to bring peace to the region by having recognition of Israel and Israel's rights to exist. I'm going to leave you with that. Think about that for a moment. Think about what that means. Because right now, based off everything that we know, this war is not over. It is going to continue. And if Hamas decides to continue holding American hostages as leverage, what is the next step for the United States? Well, we're going to find out very soon. And as we get more information, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates. But that is what we know at this time. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.